everybody, you know, you may hear it on my station because I'm playing quite a bit of it on Kurt Jazz Radio, but I think you should go out, as the old commercial used to say, no, my brother, you're gonna have to get your own. So you go out and get your go out and get your own copy of the album. But let's go a little bit back and talk about things going back a few years before we got to right now in the 21st century and Keeping It Real, the place where most of our audience first becomes familiar with you. The fact that not too long out of college, you moved to New York. After moving to New York, you not too long after that began to play with Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. So I know with that gig being one that a lot of artists, no matter what they play, would absolutely kill. Some literally would kill for that gig. So tell us, if you would, Bobby, a little bit about how you first were introduced to Art Blakey.
Well, Curtis, when Pam and I moved to New York in the fall of '76, I actually went up there on August 24th, 1976, the day after my birthday. And I flew up there from Miami, and I had a friend who I could crash with, and that was a Saturday night. And first thing I did, I got a Village Voice. You know, I went to school at the University of Miami, and there were a lot of New Yorkers I learned down in Miami, you know, because a lot of older New Yorkers, a lot of older musicians, studio musicians had retired and were living on Miami Beach, you know, and they had the beach scene was very active in terms of live music and bands. I played with, I did the Red Fox show down there. I did, and Sweets Edison was the musical director. I did the Dells. We did the OJs. Is that the one? Could it be I'm falling in love? Was that the
That's the Spinners, yes.
That's it, the Spinners.
Spinners,
Did the
yes.
Spinners. I did Nancy Wilson. You know, we did the shows. You know, I bought my first tuxedo down there, and the University of Miami was pretty progressive. They had the season, because when it got cold up north, the season around October, mid-October through the spring, that was the season down on the beach. So I met Curtis Lundy down there in Carmen, and we had a band called Nimbus, and we played out there in downtown Miami and on the beach and stuff. And like I said, I bought my first tuxedo, and we went to work down there. Our teachers were already doing the really big gigs like Henry Mancini, Frank Sinatra, Burt Bacharach, you know. So they was giving us the other shows, which were great, you know. They required, you know, certain skill set, let's say. And so in any case, that's where I hooked up with Curtis. And so Pat Metheny was down there, and Jocko Pastorius, and then Jocko moved to New York. And so that started a big exodus from Miami up to New York. And there was a lot of people, Hiram Bullock, Bruce Hornsby, Pat Metheny, just a bunch of folks were there, you know. And Ira Sullivan, he still lives down there. But I got to New York, and I immediately, like I said, the night I got to New York, I got me a Village Voice, and I started hitting the streets. And I went to Folk City. Albert Daly had a jam session down there. And so I met Rufus Reed and Billy Hart down there. And then Billy Hart, who is really an angel to this day, and he said, come on, I'm going over to see Rasan, you know, at the Village Gate, or yeah.
Yeah,
so
Village Gate, yeah.
We went over there and caught Rasan, and I just kept hanging out. You know, jazz is it's a social art form. So I made it my business to go out every night. And me and Pam, we went out and we couldn't afford to get in the club, so we would sit outside the club. We had a spot by each club, the Bottom Line, the Vanguard, every club. We had a spot where we knew where we could sit and we could hear the music. And some spots we could sit. It might have been around the back or to the side of the club, but we could. Sometimes we had a view of the stage through like a little window, and we saw a lot of music that way. And then musicians, you know, they would see us, the two of us sitting outside, and they would, you know, hey, who are you? What's going on? You know, and I was, you know, and sometimes they get us inside, you know, like I said, Billy Hart was a very big mentor in the beginning, as Roland Prince and Billy Higgins. They were very nice, and so I just kept going out, hanging out, and they got to know me and Pam as they're those two sitting outside, you know, boomers, and uh, and I'd always have my horn with me, uh, and so New York was, and still is, not so much, but it was a very dirty place, you know, coming from Miami, and then, you know, growing up in Kansas and coming to Miami and hitting New York. I felt like I was on the set of a movie, you know, because all the TV shows I've seen over the years shot in New York, you know, and it felt like I was in a movie set. And so I had to go out, you know, and because New York is not really residential. And,
No.
one thing led to another. I met a person named Joe Kingston who knew Curtis Fuller. He introduced me to Curtis Fuller. Curtis Fuller took me on his wing, and I hang out with Curtis Fuller. He was with Count Basie during the time. Him and Jimmy Forrest and Chris Woods, um, Butch Miles, and they would play up at Storyville when the Basie band was off. And the thing that gave me my clue when I got to New York, I would sit in, and cats didn't go, woo, woo, man, that was killing, or man, you sure sound good. They didn't do that, you know. After I get through playing, they say, so who are you with? You know, who you with? I'm going, I'm with nobody, you know. But that was my clue. Everybody would ask me, so who are you with? Because during that time, all the cats were coming through New York, you know, and they'd be at the Edison Hotel or something, and they would hit the streets, you know, and hang out. So the cats that lived in New York were used to a lot of people coming through. And so that was my clue to let me know that I was in the ballpark. And Curtis said, you got to meet the Boo. So Curtis hooked up with Joe, and they got Art to come down on his birthday to Storyville to hear me. And so I'm up playing with cats, you know, and next thing I know, Art scoots Butch off the drums and takes over, you know, and then the feel of the drums just changed, you know. It's like you're going down the road doing 60, and then a truck comes behind you doing 65 and bumps you, you know. Boom, you know, it's like, whoa, what the, and he's back there, blow, 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 you know.
Yeah.
And then he takes me off the stage and takes me back to the men's room, what I call the jazz office, because a lot of heavy deals have been cut. You know, a lot of gigs were gotten. You know, he said, Art takes me off and he goes, so who are you with? You know, and I said, nobody. And he asked me what I want to be at the Jazz Messengers. And I thought about it for about that long, you know. And he gave me some music. Well, he gave me some records, pile of records, and he said, learn the music, you know. And he had a quintet then with Bill Hartman and David Schnitter and Mickey Tucker and Cameron Brown. And they were going to Japan. And so before, they used to have this gig up on Columbus, this club called McHale's. So whenever the band wasn't working, Art could take the band into McHale's to keep the band together. So I went up to McHale's and I added the parts. It was David Schnitter and Bill Hartman on the front line. So I added my third part myself. So there was no rehearsals. It became an instant sextet. I added another note and it became a chord, you know? And so you know, that's how I was able to get in and stay in. You know?
Okay. So with that's a fascinating story, man. All the names and all the people you went through, that was a history in and of itself. Let me talk a little bit about the fact that now you were also very well known for being the musical director of the Messengers while you were with the group. Was that something that came immediately because of your arranging skills, or was that after a while in the group?
No, you know, it's funny. I was in the band, Curtis, for maybe 3 weeks, and now I was hoping to, you know, I certainly wanted to record with the Messengers, but I didn't think it was going to happen so fast, you know, because I felt like I hadn't had a chance to grow and travel and transition, transform, transcend to another level, being on the road, get your road chops. But about 3 weeks after we was in I was in the band, we're in the studio recording this album called Gypsy Folktales. And I was staying on the couch with his road manager and valet, Jim Green. And after the gigs, when I started in the band, after the gigs, everybody would go home and I had to go to Jim Green's house and I was staying there. And that's where Art would hang out after the gig all night, him and Jim Green talking. And so I couldn't get away from him, you know. I was like, I couldn't get away from Art or Jim. And so Jim had told Art that I could write, you know. And so we got to that record date on Gypsy Folk Tales, and we did 3 Walter Davis tunes right away. Walter Davis was in the band. He was very near and dear to me. That's his picture back there.
Yes.
That's Walter. Mm-hmm. And so we recorded, boom, Jody, we recorded Gypsy Folk Tales, we recorded Ronnie is the Dynamite Lady. Boom, boom, boom. We did it in about an hour. And so Art looks over at me and says, "Who got something?" So I said, "I do." And he said, "Pass it out." And so I passed out Time Will Tell and this song called Hawkman. And so just out of college, I come up to Art and I have this piece of paper in my hand, which is a drum part, you know. And so, and on the drum part, you know, you put the feeling of the music, like Latin or swing, shuffle, you know, up tempo, ballad, you know, and I put Elvinish feel, right? And so I'm getting ready to hand it to him, but I'd already been with Art now for about 3 weeks, so I said that's not gonna fly. So I crossed it off, you know. I crossed that out because I'm like, I'm looking at a man who is a feel.
Yeah.
He is. You tell him, because he would have told me, if you want Elvin, go get Elvin, you know. So I avoided that. So I still handed him a drum part, and he looked at it, and he crumpled it up and threw it on the floor, and he said, "Stomp it off." And so he listened. You know, he listened a couple times, then he went right into it and put the dun 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 dun. Him and Walter Davis teamed up and put that groove together, and off we went. Time Will Tell, just like that in the studio. And the producer saw the whole thing go down with Roulette Records, and after the second day of recording, he asked me, did I have any more? And I said, yeah, and that led to my first recording on Roulette Records.
Nice. That's a great stories, great history there. We're going to now, I guess, compress, because I believe your time with the Messengers was from about 77 to around 81. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Correct. All right. And toward the end of that time, a couple of trumpet players had moved through, and a young cat from New Orleans came in, a young bespectacled cat, Big Fro, making his way through and joined you in the group. Well, no, even before I get to that, you know, the young cat who you happen to go by the first name of Wynton, I believe named after Wynton Kelly. But this young man, as everybody knows at this point, is Wynton Marsalis. And now there's a story, I don't know whether it's legend or whether it's the truth, that you had something to do with Wynton Marsalis joining the Messengers. Is that true, or is that just one of those legends?
Actually, it's funny. There was some drama in the band, you know, and Valerie Ponomareff was playing trumpet then.
Yes.
And so Wynton had been sitting at the table with Valerie during the break. We were up at McHale's, and so Wynton was picking Valerie's brain, asking him about trumpet, and and Wynton was like sitting there with Bambi eyes, yes, Mr. Ponomareff, yes, and what else do you practice, and Valerie's telling him. So then Valerie brings him downstairs and says, Art, you got to let this young man sit in. He's a good young man. I haven't heard him play, but I think you should let him sit in. I can just tell. And so Art goes, go get your horn. This is in the middle of winter. And, Wynton had on tennis shoes and a windbreaker. And he was a Juilliard still. So he ran over and back, got his horn, came back. And he got up on the stage, man. And Valerie was, as well as all of us, we were standing there with our mouth open, and man, we jumped in and we had fun right away. I hooked up with me and Wynton and Billy Pierce. No, it was David Schnitter. No, Billy Pierce by that time. So that was the start of a transition. That's when he started the big band, when he had Valerie and Wynton. And then he had Billy Pierce and he had Branford and Kevin Eubanks, and Robin Eubanks. So usually when Art wants to change up the band, he'll start a big band. And he did that when he did this record Golden Boy. Messengers played a theme from Golden Boy, and he had Freddie and Lee in the band. And so he was getting ready to let Lee, he didn't fire anybody, but he was getting ready to make a switch. And he was going to transition from Lee Morgan to Freddie. And so Valerie didn't know it, but he had his replacement. I think he kind of knew, but he had his replacement was in the band. So Art could have both, And so after he broke the big band back down, we did a European tour and a little bit of touring in the States with that thing. And when we broke that back down to a sextet, it was Wynton and Billy Pierce and myself. And we were together about 2 years, around a little over 2 years, that band with Charles Fambro and James Williams.
Oh yeah. Made some nice music then. Straight Ahead is one I can think of, and at least I remember there with that band. Great group, and did some great music. So now around the time, of course, Good Things Come to an End, I believe when it was your time, Branford replaced you actually on alto. Was that the way it went?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Branford replaced me. And then Fambro, and then Donald Brown replaced James.
James Williams, yes.
Williams, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of went like from there. Benny Green, Jeff Keezer, Johnny O'Neill.
Yes, Johnny O'Neill. Forgotten about him for a minute. Johnny O'Neill.
Yeah, Johnny O'Neill.
As well.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Post Messengers. You then formed your own group kind of along the same line, and that was now the famous Horizon, the legendary group Horizon. Let's talk about the foundings of Horizon and what was at least the thought of putting a group like that together.
Well, like I said, I met Curtis in college, down in Miami. So we were just, bosom buddies to this day. And it's my brother. And so we just wanted to start a band. Plus Art always said, when you leave the Messengers, you got to go ahead and start your own band too, But there was, I wanted to play with a lot of cats too. So, I did a lot of freelancing and side bands and stuff, But that was the bulk of it. But I still put a band together. And it wasn't called Horizon then. It was just Bobby Watson, Curtis Lundy quintet, quartet, Kenny Washington, Mulgrew, and sometimes Marvin Smitty Smith, James Wideman, Robin Eubanks sometimes, and you know, Rudy Walker, drummer from New Jersey. And there was, you know, we just, you know, I always just wanted to play with cats I wanted to play with, people who had something that challenged me and make me try to play better. That's really the whole thing with Horizon. And I understand where Art was coming from. You know, you got some young folks that are younger you, and they're playing some stuff that's interesting, and it keeps you fresh, you know, and it keeps you on your toes. And everybody that I've played with and been associated with people that I respected highly, and that I knew I could learn something from. And me and Curtis Lundy have always been the anchor. And then one day, well, we had these twins. I wrote this song Heckle and Jekyll. That's on the Inventor, and
Yes.
that's for Daryl and Doug Jeffries out of East Orange, New Jersey, and they were like young promoters. And so he used to book a lot of gigs for us in Jersey. And he said, "You guys need a band, you know." And so he he just named us Horizon, and I didn't like the name at first, you know, but it grew on me, you know. Maybe I didn't like it because he suggested it, you know.
It kind of stuck with you, you know. I can see where Horizon does, you know, sound. Oh man, you know,
Right.
sounds a little new agey, but you know, it does grow on you after a while. And now
Yeah,
it's yours, man. You
it
know.
grew on me, you know. Yeah.
I hear you. Well, let's talk because we're getting closer, and we're going to jump around a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about education. We here at Jazz Arts Charlotte, education is very important to us, and I know that now for about the past 20 years, we're skipping all the way over all those great Horizon records and so many other great things you did, but we'll skip to around 2000 when you became the first endowed jazz studies chair professor at University of Missouri, Kansas City. And that's a place where you settled down into the teaching gig. You were still making records, some very good ones over the years. Showed how old I am by saying records, but but you're still making some very fine music. But it seemed like teaching there and being at that place was the anchor. Then suddenly now, earlier this year, when this semester came to an end, you essentially decided to retire and hit the road, you know, and go out. I know, of course, COVID-19 has had its say about that, but nonetheless, that was the plan. Now, pre-pandemic, what made you decide at this point, with all the accolades you've had in your career, to go out and hit the road again and do something with a new horizon, so to speak?
A couple of things, Curtis. I always had a 20-year plan. You know, I said I'll reevaluate when I get close to 20 years. I'll see if I want to go a little further, because in academia, 20 years is the minimum. You know, you can have your benefits and stuff. You know, so I was, you know, I wasn't going to ride off into the sunset, you know, in academia. That was never the plan. And a couple of years ago, I started planning my retirement, and 2020 was my goal. 20 years, you know, and that would be where I could retire with a pension and certain benefits that the school offered me at that time, which are, believe it, have gone away for people who've came after me. So again, it was just divine timing when I got there, because I wasn't looking for a teaching gig. It sort of came to me. You know, I like to say that blessings always hit you from the rear. You never see them coming. But as long as you're moving forward, trying to do something, then the blessings will hit you from behind. And so you just have to be ready. And I was ready. I had already been on faculty at the New School in New York, Manhattan School of Music, and William Patterson. I had been adjunct faculty there. So I was dipping my toe in it, and I was doing master classes around the country. I like to go in and be artist in residence, and things like this. So and being in my hometown, and my parents and Pam's parents were here, still living at the time, and I had a couple brothers here, so it just seemed right to go home. And I had reached a critical mass where I could work every day of the year, but I reached the apex at that level, so it was kind of time for me to back off. And I just think being here with the healthcare, which is very important, saved my life. Been able to have things looked after, and I don't have anything serious at all, but tune
Good to
up,
know.
nice tune ups with the teeth and all that good stuff, to keep my Pepsodent smile going. And but 20 years, and then so it was like totally. I was all booked up this year, like we were talking about earlier with the Charlie Parker Centennial. We was riding that
Yes.
with the Bird at 100 project with Gary Bartz and Vincent, his project, Vincent Herring. So we
Yes.
was all set to go. And that and solo appearances with big bands and some orchestras, and just playing some Bird with strings with some orchestras, and young man from Kansas City playing altos. The stars lined up, once in a lifetime, centennial, so this is like, we're ready to go. And it just, then all of a sudden in February, things started going down.
There we are, and here we are. Yes, doing
Yeah.
this.
And
here you are talking to me on Zoom, man.
Yeah, here we are. I think I'm doing a Zoom masterclass for Louisville, University of Louisville in September. Over Zoom. But there's nothing like live music.
Very true.
You
Very true.
We
Yeah.
move air. That's what we do. We when we're in a room, we moved air. We move molecules. We change the molecules in a room with the vibrations of our sound. And that's what we do. And Skype and Zoom playing, streaming stuff, that don't really do it.
Yeah.
When you're in a room, the atmosphere changes for everybody in the room, and that's our power.
Absolutely. Let's talk, since you mentioned it, let's talk a little bit about that Bird on 100 Dynamite album that came just before Keepin It Real. And Lonnie showed up a picture of it before, as you say. Vince Herrick was leading the date also with you and Gary Bartz, three of the finest living alto saxophonists on the planet right now. And y'all came together. Also, Carl Allen, I see on this one. So I know Vince was putting together the date, but how did you come to be a part of it?
Vincent called me. Vincent called me. We go way back. Vincent and I used to play on the street, in the beginning. At Marvin City Smith, Steve Cohen, a lot of musicians used to play on the street and make the money before the city took over. You have to have a permit now, but we used to be out there. And so I've known Vincent forever. And he called me and said, "Hey man, I'd like you to be a part of this." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, yes." And with Gary Bartz, one of my heroes.
Yeah.
Him and Charles McPherson, and those guys are like my heroes. Sonny Rollins and Benny Golson. So, he asked me to write some things, arrange some things, and but not try to reinvent the wheel. And so I was able to get this one song on the record called Bird-ish.
Yes. Very good one.
Which is written over confirmation. And I had another one that was in the can. I did an arrangement of Mohawk, but that didn't make the record, so I recorded it on the latest record.
Oh, okay. Yes, yeah, I'm looking here. Well, of course you're right, because I'm looking at it here. You would know more than I do. But and I also want to talk about your. I noticed each one of the three of you, in addition to y'all playing the ensemble pieces, each one of you had a solo piece, and yours, These Foolish Things, which is now instantly one of my favorite versions of it. What was that, your selection or your choice to do These Foolish Things, or was it just handed to you?
No, it was my choice. That's one of the songs I play regularly. And it's that Bird, loved to play, coincidentally. I love that song. I love the lyrics, the story. You know, the beautiful thing about ballads is the lyrics. They're all telling a story, some kind of love. You know, love you lost, love you would like to have, love that, you know, all kinds of things. It's all
Yeah.
about love, you know.
Or the love you currently have, man. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be lost or wishing, man. Sometimes, you know,
Or
you
the
got the
love you
one.
currently have. That's right. You know,
That's right.
it's
That's
always
right.
beautiful. There's a song. There's a song for any situation, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a beautiful thing, that learning this music, and as I write, I try to uh, my titles, like Keeping It Real. That's something that we say a lot, you know. Man,
Yeah.
I'm just keeping it real, you know. So I like Time Will Tell, and you know, things like that. There's little phrases, no question about it, you know. And I try to pull from my life, and this last record, you know, I got some gospel on it because I was raised in the church, Church of
Yeah,
God.
we got a little praise break at the end of Keeping It Real. As I know.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you know, that's part of my life, you know, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to bring everything in the table that that represents me, you know. I'm trying to keep it real, you know. I'm just sorry,
No,
but
it's a
I gotta be me, you know.
yeah.
I gotta be
But
me, and I enjoy my sound, and
mhm.
I enjoy the opportunity to get a chance to play with cats I love, you know.
And let's talk a little bit about this new record. We've been talking about everything, and no, and let's talk a little bit about Keeping It Real, the new record with, of course, now Curtis Lundy is there with you as usual. But the thing that caught my attention more than anything, somebody's coming in there from somewhere. But no, that is not part of what's on the album, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's somebody's.
I was hoping that wouldn't happen. I don't know how to do that.
No, that is, even though we probably could, you know, make a riff off of that if we wanted to, but
You
in
know,
any
that's
case,
right.
yeah,
Right. All fair game, man.
that's it. So now, one thing you had talked about with the new album was the idea of reinventing, just as you said, Boo would reinvent the Messengers, the whole idea of a reinvention of Horizon. So with the exception of Lundy, who is always going to be there, I think, as long as you are, there's a lot of new cats there, you know, young cats who very impressed. I am, as I'm, you know, become a fan of Mr. Victor Gould and Josh Evans, and now another young cat who another trumpeter there, and I don't want to mispronounce his name because it's
yeah, Gift and Jellum.
Gibson Jellum, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So what made you decide to really turn everything around with this group and start fresh, so to speak?
I've been doing quartet gigs, you know, with Victor and Curtis, and for a couple years, and I had another record to do for Smoke, um, and I was sort of keeping my eyes and ears open for what I want to do. And Curtis, he hit me to Gifton, and
Mm-hmm.
so he brought him in, and we let him sit in. I gave him some music, and he hung out with us for 4 nights there. And I said, man, he's in the band now, you know. And then maybe 7, 8 months later, we had a chance to record. And but in the meantime, we were doing a tour with Horizon, the original, with Victor Lewis, Edward Simon, and Essie. But Essie ended up not being able to make it, so we had Carol Dashiell and me and Terrell Stafford. But that was like 5 gigs, but it took a year and a half to organize that because everybody's so busy and they're all leaders and masters in their own right. You know, they're doing. They have families and they are all doing their own projects and stuff and making their own way. So to get into their schedule, you have to book way in advance. And in the meantime, I'm working quartet, with Curtis and them, and that last little bit we did together right before we recorded Keeping It Real, it just sort of hit me that I think it's time for a change. I think it's ran its course. We made some great records together, and I started thinking about art. People like to always compare what I do to the Messengers, and the mentor part is very important. But it just the energy had changed. Everybody had grown older, and we still enjoyed playing together, but it wasn't the same. What can I say? It was just different. Everybody was older, and they had a lot more stuff on their mind than Horizon. And that's just the way life is. And so I figured now would be a good time, since I'm getting ready to do this record, to change.
Okay. And now, because I noticed that Givton is just 21 years old, or at least that's what I've seen. And Josh Evans he's not ready for Social Security either. He's in his mid-30s or something, as I think.
That's right.
So that with the idea being, and I also know Victor Gould, I don't know, but I also know he's a young man. So is the idea being similar to that with the Messengers, or are you planning at this point to say change over every few years, have young cats come through the group like Boo did back in the day with the Messengers, or are you going to try to keep this a little bit more of a permanent group?
Well, I keep it all fluid. Whatever comes my way and whoever's available, because people are constantly evolving and growing, and opportunities are presented to everyone. The way this art form is the way the art form is, you really can't expect somebody to stay with you. Like Art used to always say, it isn't the post office, Bobby, you know. So you're not going to retire. You're not going to retire with the Messengers, you know. And so for me, I'm on a projection to keep playing, and whoever's with me, they're with me. And if they have to go do something else, there's somebody else that'll come in, and we'll see what that stirs the pot and see what that makes it, you know. And at some point, I want to do something with I like to do something with Pat Metheny. Me and Pat has been talking, you know, because me and Pat go way back. You know, he's from Lee Summit, Missouri, which is like right outside of Kansas City. So me and Pat been together since we were like 18, 19, you know, and then other people, you know, I like to maybe do a collaboration with, you know, with Curtis and I don't know, there's some other folks out there I like to play with as well. You know, it would be nice to do something like that. You know, I always wanted to play with Roy Haynes, and I still want to play with Herb. I still want to play with Herbie.
Yeah. So that was kind of going to be my next question. I was going to say, you know, who is it that you would like to work with? And you anticipated that, got ahead of me on that one. So one more before I go, because I know the audience has a number of questions, but I didn't want to at least leave talking to you without talking about an album, a very fine album you made about 3 years back, Made in America. And its historical aspects, the fact that you on that album pay tribute to a lot of great African-American heroes over the years. Some people that a lot of people know about, you know, like the GOAT, the GOAT for Sammy Davis Jr., of course. And then you also have something in tribute to Butterfly McQueen and Grant Green. But in addition, there's also a few people that people don't know about, don't hear of regularly, such as Major Taylor, a great cyclist at the turn of the 20th century, Isaac Murphy, the jockey, Wendell Pruitt of the Tuskegee Airmen. Let's talk a little bit about Made in America, and what was the inspiration for choosing some of these icons that you chose to honor on that record?
Well, the first person that really started me, it really, you know, shocked me, because I'm still learning every day more about Black history, you know, here in America and also in the world. And Major Taylor, I heard about Major Taylor. Somebody told me about Major Taylor. I'm going, who? You know, and so I jumped in there, and, you know, that sense of frustration overtakes me, because why didn't I know this? You know, that thing. Why didn't I know? And so that just sparked me on, you know, and it led me to Isaac Murphy, you know, the jockey who won, like, I think 2 consecutive Kentucky Derbies, 3 maybe. He's the only one.
Mm-hmm.
They have a tournament in his name and all kinds of stuff. Isaac Murphy, like Major Taylor. Then I saw, you know, this little P. Diddy commercial with Major Taylor, a Hennessy commercial.
Yep. Yes,
You know?
I've seen that.
I'm like, so I mean, it's like stuff is just in the air, you know. And then I was gonna do the lady like we were talking about earlier from NASA. They helped put the man on the moon.
Yes. Hidden Figures. I can't.
One of the Hidden
Katherine
Figures.
Johnson, I think. Is it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
She just passed away not too long ago. And,
Yes.
you know, and I just pulled up a ton of folks, you know. And Dr. Mark Dean, he holds the most patents at IBM. He's the reason that, you know, we got the color screen and the plug and play and all the stuff that made, you know, IBM. He's got like 9, 10 patents, the really important ones. He's still living, you know, and you know, it's like that. And then again, Sammy Davis, the greatest entertainer of all time.
Yes.
Child prodigy. So, and Grant Green, another one that was overlooked. People talk about Wes Montgomery. So these were people who were, you know, we know Martin Luther King. We know the big ones, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was because the same in my field. We know certain people who that are fortunate enough to become, you know, what they call market, like Wynton Marsalis.
Yes.
You say Wynton Marsalis, everybody knows. But you say Bobby Watson, some people know. Only the serious ones know, you know? So I was looking for folks like that, just to be quite honest, you know, who a lot of our ancestors and Black brothers and sisters that came before us that really, really were there, you know, like a John Lewis, you know, how heavy was he? You know, a lot of people didn't realize, you know, and the whole thing, you know, was like that, born out of who was there and who was important and who was not written about in history the proper way. You know, Black history is deep. You know, I'm not saying anything that nobody doesn't know, but it just amazes me how at my age, I'm still discovering stuff every other day. And each time I do, it burns me up.
Yeah.
It drives me more and just makes me, I get angry for a minute, you know, and just drives me more. Well, what else am I not learning? What else did I know? What else? You know, I consider myself pretty, you know, well-read, and it just, you know, quite frankly, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
You know, and I want other people to get pissed off. That's why I put this record out. When they look at these names, I oh man, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hear you on that. So, well, I hate to, because I got plenty more questions I can ask. I could go on asking questions, man, and kicking it with you for about at least another hour. But I'm not gonna be selfish. I'm gonna turn it over to the audience and Lonnie. I know I've been seeing some questions come by in the chat. So Lonnie, if you could share with us some of the questions that our audience has for Mr. Bobby Watson.
Absolutely. We have our first question from Marie Minel Bell, and she says, "Hey, Bobby." She says she had been blessed to hear you at Miami Shores Country Club and Arts Garage, and she wants to know, are you still in contact with Stephen Scott?
Oh yeah, he was on the.
He was on Made in America. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wants to move back up for a while. You know, Stephen is great. I mean, he was on Tailor Made on Columbia too. I've been knowing Stephen for a long time. He grew up with Justin Robinson. You know, they're Queens guys.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Great. All right. So our next question is from Kevin Patterson. Kevin has a question about the old time jam sessions. He wants to know who challenged you most on the horn back in the day.
You always, the only one that ever took me through the keys was George Coleman. I got to New York and I was ready to play things in 12 keys, and nobody did really. And modulate. You hear about the jam sessions where they play one chorus in one key, and then they go up a half step and kept going up and up. I was ready, and George Coleman is the only one that actually does that. We were at Bradley's one night, and we were taking Cherokee through the keys, and we were up quite a ways from the original key, and this gentleman came in, and he heard Cherokee, so he pulled out his horn, and he's getting ready to jump right in, right? But he goes up and he jumps right in, and he hits a couple of notes, and he turned around and sat back down because he didn't realize it wasn't in the original key, George
the
Coleman,
water was too deep.
it sounded like a B flat, but it wasn't.
Wow.
That's great, man.
That is funny. That half step makes a big difference. All right.
You were a little bit further away than that, too.
All right. Let's see. The next question is from Rebecca, and it's about jazz education. She wants to know, given that music education remains virtual for the time being, what advice do you give to students as they try to continue to grow in this virtual world?
Oh, my goodness. I would just say, right now, try to get as familiar with as much software and equipment that you can use. Try to utilize that, because now that it's been introduced, it's not going away. And so Max Roach had told me that, everything in life is in addition to, not in place of. So this is something that I think should be added to a musician today, and not replacing things that were there pre-pandemic. So like I say, there's nothing like live music. So, but if you have this definite technology, it's allowing us to share this evening. So this is an addition to what I already do.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that question, Rebecca, and thank you, Mr. Watson. Let's see, looks like the last question we have here so far is from Mr. Al Williams. He wants to know, when was the last time you were here in Charlotte performing? He said he was at the gig in 1989 at the African American Cultural Center, and he wants to know, is that your last time performing in Charlotte?
I do believe so, Al. I do believe so. I was close. Virginia, that's not that. Be nice to get back over there. I'm free now. I mean, all I need is permission to get on a plane, Oh, and somebody, I saw a little comment, good anger. That's what it is. Like, getting in good trouble. Like when I find out something I didn't know. That was a good remark. Good anger from Barbara.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're going to have to do something about getting you back here to Charlotte.
Yes, we are.
I will be there in a heartbeat. I have to spread the word. We're like traveling salesmen / Pied Pipers, and we want to make people feel good. That's our job description. Art Blakey said, I always bring him up. He said our job description is we travel around the world at other people's expense, making people feel good. And we're there by invitation, And so it's a beautiful opportunity, beautiful calling. And it's taking this country boy to places I never thought I would see. And, if I could, I'd give everybody a passport if I was president, and make them get the hell out, within my first 4 years. Otherwise, they'd get a stiff fine, because you need to get out and see something. It makes you appreciate things, and also makes you more focused in terms of what needs to be done.
That's right.
Well said. So Lonnie, do we have any more questions? Because if not, I've got at least one more to get us to the top of the hour. Do we have any more?
I don't see any more at this time, so go right ahead, Curtis.
Okay. All right. Just a quick question, something we didn't talk about, but of course, your foray into working on film soundtracks, being involved with the soundtrack of Robert De Niro's A Bronx Tale and some contributions you made to that. How did you come to be involved with The Bronx Tale, that film?
So that happened when I was at Columbia Records.
Mm-hmm.
And my manager then, again, this music is a social art form, and my life and career has been built on personal relationships. And again, my manager's wife was a high-powered lawyer with Warner Brothers, and and one thing led to another. I got introduced to Bob, and he started coming to my gigs, listening to me, and he wanted me to do some original material, which really wasn't much, because the whole theme of that movie, you might remember, is "I Only Have Eyes for You."
Yeah.
Doo-wop, doo-wop. Then he had some Jimi Hendrix in there along the Watchtower, and so the one piece of music that I had in the movie was 1 minute and 30 seconds. And it's a scene where he pulls up in the bus and he's got a radio in his bus. He's trying to get his son to come, and he wants his son to go to the boxing match with him. And then the son's like saying, "Hey, Dad, could you turn that down?" And when he says that, the sound coming out of the radio, that's us. And he says, you kids today, y'all don't know what's good. That's 1 minute and 30 seconds. And I got that was one of my, if not my biggest royalty. And on the soundtrack, it's maybe 34 seconds.
Wow.
So I got to get some more stuff in the movies. I'll tell you that. But Bob is a great person, man. He's a great person and down to earth, and they're used to doing a lot of takes. So we were in the studio, and we did the take, and he did do it again. Can you do it again? Can you do it a little lower? So we transposed it a little lower. He said, can you do it a little lower and do it again? So we're like up now at around take 16. And I'm like, Bob, I mean, that's it, And so he came out, Bob was getting ready to come out the door to say something, and Curtis says, get back in your cage.
Now this is
so he went
Bob
back
De Niro you're talking.
Yeah, De Niro, Robert.
Okay.
Yeah. He's like, he got back in, he went back in, and that's it. I mean, with jazz, is after 20 takes, for God's sake, we were done like, an hour ago.
Great.
That record, album of the year, that record was all one take. We did that record in less than 3 hours.
Wow. Impressive on that one. Last question, sir. Looking at the future of jazz in the 21st century, you continue to work with, and through Horizon and other things, nurture young artists. So what, if anything, does jazz have to do to continue to survive and thrive? Do we need to change, do more of what we're doing? How does jazz continue or even become more relevant as this 21st century goes on?
I think jazz is like a river. It's going to flow, but I think that I think people need to go check the minutes of the last meeting before they move forward, and somebody has to stay home. Me and Curtis say it's our job to stay home and let everybody run out and play. Because sooner or later, they're going to want to come home and do some spang-a-lang and swing. Because that's probably the most difficult thing to do, is to be creative and expressive swinging. You know, a lot of music is straight eighth notes, and they want to combine this and a lot of vamps. And we did that stuff in high school, as far as I'm concerned. You know, we did that 1, 2 chords and odd meters and stuff. You know, the pinnacle for us is being able to swing over some chord changes. You know, and put out different moods and feelings. And I think that us, like the young black musicians, don't turn their back on that. You know, it makes me angry that young white musicians, they can play 4/4 swing and they can play, and they're supposed to be holding up the tradition and keeping the torch. But when black musicians want to play it, then it's some old stale stuff. That ain't fair. You know, they get to go over the world and swing. Why can't brothers? They want the brothers to do something stupid. You know, oh, they're combining such and such with so and so, and whoa, what the hell are they doing? That's what the black people are supposed to do. Yeah, innovate. You know, no, you know, this is our art form. You know, it's spread through all the world, but it's a black art form. It's not African. It's got African influence, but it's a Black American art form, and we need to own it. And I hope the young black people out there and white people, you can do it too. But you got to understand it. You know, Latinos don't go for that. You know, you're going to play klezmer music, you got to study with a Roystein or something. No, you got to go to the well for this music. So I don't want the young people to forget, you got to go to the well and you got to go through certain people. You can't go around us. You got to come through us, just like I did. You got to go through people. You can't skip around them. You might skip around them for a minute, but you're going to come back one day. And this slope is not too late. You know, it ain't about knowing your scales, your Dorian modes and your Mixolydians and transcribing this. No, it's what's in your heart and what's in your soul. Are you brave enough? And do you have enough courage to stand up and expose yourself and be naked on stage and not be afraid to make a mistake? And then when you do, make something out of it and swing. Can you dance? Most musicians can't even dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't ask them to play the blues, man. They'll melt. They'll dissolve right in front of your eyes, man. Into a pool of oil. Don't forget, you know, the tree has roots, man. You know, and you can't get around it. So, you know, I see a lot of people trying to skirt around it, create new language to try to describe what you're doing. If you have to talk about what you're doing in music, then you ain't doing nothing. You know what they say, let the music speak for itself.
That's right.
You know, they say, oh, I'm doing the X tripod 230 with the tangelope on the hypotenuse. You know?
Wow. Yes, sir.
Can you pat your foot? Can you wiggle your butt? My God, dang it. What do you do to, you know, something you was born with? They want to get away from that. That makes me angry. Good angry.
Good angry. Good trouble.
Anyway,
yes,
sorry
sir.
about that. No, I'm not sorry about that. There you go.
No, nothing to apologize for, sir. That's the perfect way, I think, to bring us to a close. And I will say at this point, Bobby Watson, thank you. I mean, I'm saying it, and I know from everyone else who has been on this call tonight to be with you and spend this time and learn a lot. This has really been a pleasure and an experience. Before I turn it over to Lonnie again, I just want to remind you, Bobby Watson's brand new album, Keepin It Real, is out. It's available now. Don't just listen to it. If you dig it, buy it, okay? Buy the CD. If you don't buy a CD, I know we have LPs again now. Smoke Sessions is sending me LPs as well as CDs. That's right. The CD, the LP, digital downloads, legal digital downloads, buy it in any form you can, but make sure you support great musicians, our history, our legends, just like Bobby Watson. Also, out at the same time, the Bird at 100 date, along with Vincent Herring and Gary Bartz, also available, and so much more in Bobby Watson's fantastic catalog. Thank you, Mr. Watson, again for being with us and spending this time with us. I want to say once again, I'm Curtis Davenport. You can hear me always, now and forever, on my station, and that is Kurt Jazz Radio, playing right now as I'm here. I'm probably playing some Bobby Watson over there on the Live 365 portal. So listen in. It's the best jazz anywhere, and jazz lives here in Charlotte, baby. Thank you, Lonnie. I turn it back over to you.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you again for being here, Mr. Watson. It has been a real pleasure. And thanks to all of you who have joined us this evening. If you don't know about Jazz Arts, please do go to our website, learn more about us. We are a nonprofit organization right here in Charlotte. And our mission is to connect the community and develop a jazz audience through education, through performance, and musician support. And we really appreciate all of our supporters and donors who have continued to support us through this tough time. If you have the ability, please do consider a gift to Jazz Arts today. And I want to thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.
So good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.